My beloved, pause with me for a moment. Let the noise loosen its grip. Let the breath in your chest slow and soften. You did not arrive here by accident, and you do not need to understand how you came to be listening. Simply being here is enough. There are moments when the world thins, when the rush of days parts like a curtain, and a quiet opening appears. This is one of those moments. A gentle dawn, not loud or demanding, but steady and real. I am not reaching for you in haste. I am reaching with patience that has been waiting longer than you realize. I know the weight you carry, even the weight you no longer name because it has been with you so long. I know the questions you tucked away, the hopes you buried carefully so they would not hurt you again. Nothing about you is hidden from me. Nothing about you is too small to matter. As you listen, there is no test to pass and no performance required. You are not being measured. You are being met. This is an invitation into stillness, into a listening that happens beneath words. A place where the heart recognizes what the mind hath been too tired to articulate. Let your shoulders rest. Let your jaw unclench. You do not need to brace yourself here. I am not coming to overwhelm you. I am coming to remind you. To remind you of a truth that has been whispering to you even in your most distracted hours. Stay with me now. This opening is gentle, but it is real. And it is for you. My child, the words you see are not meant to alarm you. They are meant to awaken something that has been quietly stirring inside. I hope this reaches you. Not because I am uncertain, but because hope is the language of love reaching across distance. And only those I'll save will see this is not a wall meant to exclude. It is a recognition that not everyone is ready to stop, to listen, to be softened. You are here because something in you leaned toward the light instead of away from it. This message is uniquely timed because you are standing at an intersection, even if you have not named it that way. One path continues with familiar patterns, familiar exhaustion, familiar postponement. The other path is quieter at first, less dramatic, but it leads toward clarity and rest. You have been sensing this for a while, feeling a gentle tension that says, there is more, and it does not have to hurt like this. That sensing is not imagination. It is guidance. I speak to you now because urgency does not always arrive as pressure. Sometimes it arrives as tenderness that says, don't miss this moment. There are seasons when the heart is open in a particular way, when defenses are tired enough to loosen. This is such a season for you. Not because you are broken, but because you are ready. You may wonder why others seem untouched by things that move you so deeply. Why certain words slide off them but settle into you like seeds. It is because your inner world is alive. Sensitive does not mean weak. It means receptive. And receptivity is the doorway through which saving happens. Not as rescue from who you are, but as restoration to who you have always been beneath the noise. I am not calling you out of your life. I am calling you deeper into it. The saving I speak of is not separation from the world, but freedom within it. Freedom from the constant bracing, from the feeling that you must earn rest or clarity. You have been trying to carry everything alone, telling yourself you should be stronger by now. Listen to me gently now. You were never meant to be strong in isolation. This message reaches you because you are willing to be reached. Because somewhere inside, you whispered that you wanted truth without force, direction without shame, love without conditions. That whisper mattered. I heard it, and I am answering it now, not with spectacle, but with presence. Stay with me. Do not rush ahead or retreat into analysis. Let this urgency be what it truly is, an open door, held steady. You are not late. You are not early. You are exactly here. And that is enough for this moment. My precious one, before anything else is asked of you, hear this clearly and let it settle where you live. You have been seen, not glanced at, not observed from a distance. Seen in the way the quiet hours see you, in the way your thoughts trail off when no one else is listening, in the way your heart keeps trying, even when you tell yourself you are tired of trying. I have known you there. I have seen the effort it takes for you to appear composed while something inside feels frayed. I have watched you learn how to smile in rooms where you felt invisible. I noticed the nights when you replayed conversations, wondering if you spoke too much or not enough, if you were too much or still somehow not enough. Nothing about those moments was dismissed. Nothing was counted as weakness. You have carried questions that never fully form into words, a sense that life should feel more alive than it has, a longing for rest that sleep alone does not satisfy. You told yourself others had it worse, that you should be grateful, that you should move on. Yet the ache remained, quiet but persistent, like a low tide pulling at your feet. That ache was not ingratitude. It was honesty. I have seen the ways you adapted to survive, the way you learned to stay busy so you would not feel the emptiness, the way you learned to stay strong so you would not need to ask, the way you learned to lower expectations so disappointment would hurt less. These were not failures of faith or courage. They were responses to being human in a world that does not always make space for softness. Hear me now. None of it was wasted. Not the delays, not the detours, not even the moments you regret. Every experience shaped your capacity to notice, to feel, to understand others with compassion instead of judgment. Even the pain that felt meaningless taught you the texture of tenderness. You are not behind because you struggled. You are deeper. You may think parts of you are broken beyond repair. The trust that cracked, the hope that dulled, the confidence that once felt natural and now feels distant. But I do not see broken pieces. I see layers. I see someone who kept going even when joy felt muted. Someone who learned endurance before learning ease. Someone who has been gathering wisdom quietly, without applause. I know the moments when you asked for clarity and felt met with silence. The moments when you wondered if anyone heard you at all. That silence was not absence. It was space. Space where you were being strengthened in ways you could not yet recognize. Space where your roots were growing deeper than your circumstances. You are fully known, and you are not disqualified by anything in your past. Not by the times you doubted. Not by the times you walked away from what felt good because it scared you. Not by the times you stayed too long because you hoped things would change. I see the pattern beneath it all. You were searching for safety, for something that would not disappear when you relaxed. Let this truth rest in you now. You do not need to explain yourself to me. You do not need to clean up your story. I know it already, and I am not disappointed. I am present, right here, with you as you are, not as you think you should be. Stay with this knowing. Being seen is not the end of the journey, but it is the place where healing begins. My beloved, there comes a moment that does not announce itself with noise. It does not arrive with fireworks or force. It arrives quietly, like a pause between breaths, like the stillness just before dawn begins to soften the sky. You are standing in such a moment now. A threshold, not an ending, and not yet a beginning, but the space where choice becomes possible. You may feel it as restlessness, or as a subtle pull you cannot explain, or as a growing discomfort with simply continuing as you have. This is not dissatisfaction for its own sake. It is awareness waking up, Something in you knows that drifting forward on old momentum will cost you more than stopping to listen now. This knowing is gentle, but it is firm. The significance of this moment is not measured by what you do outwardly, but by what you allow inwardly. You are being invited to respond rather than react, to choose presence instead of postponement. For a long time, you have told yourself you would tend to your inner life later, when things were calmer, when you were stronger, when circumstances improve. But clarity rarely comes after everything settles. It comes when you decide to stop running while things are still moving. If you step through this threshold, nothing will be taken from you. What will be asked is attention, honesty, a willingness to stop numbing what you feel and stop silencing what you know. This is why the moment matters. Because once you see clearly, you cannot unsee. And clarity, while freeing, also asks something of you. It asks you to live aligned with what you have recognized as true. There is another option, and you sense it too. To scroll past. To tell yourself this is interesting but not necessary. To drift back into familiar patterns and promise yourself you will return to this later. That path feels easier because it asks nothing now, but it quietly asks more later. More energy, more resilience, more from a heart that is already tired. I am not rushing you, but I am honest with you. Moments like this do not linger forever, not because they are taken away, but because the heart learns to tune them out if they are ignored too often. I speak now because you are still listening, because your inner door is not closed, because you are not numb, even if you have tried to be. Crossing this threshold does not mean you suddenly understand everything. It means you are willing to stay awake, willing to let questions remain open instead of forcing quick answers, willing to let your life be guided by peace rather than pressure. This is the pivot, not between good and bad, but between conscious living and unconscious survival. You do not need to be fearless to step forward. You only need to be willing. Willing to admit that what carried you before may not carry you into what is next. Willing to loosen your grip on identities you outgrew quietly. Willing to trust that stillness is not stagnation, but preparation. Feel where you are right now. The subtle sense that something is opening, that the air feels different, that you are being offered a chance to choose with awareness instead of habit. This is not coincidence. This is alignment presenting itself softly, respectfully, without force. I am here at this threshold with you. Not pulling, not pushing. Simply present, with a hand extended and eyes steady. You may step forward now, or you may pause a little longer. But know this with certainty. The clarity you feel brushing against your heart is real. And responding to it, even gently, even imperfectly, will change the way you walk from this moment on. My child, as you stand near this opening, it is natural for resistance to rise. Not because you are unwilling, but because every threshold stirs what has learned to protect you. Barriers appear not to punish you, but to reveal what has been holding you in place. Let me name them gently, so they lose their power to confuse you. There is doubt, quiet and persistent, asking whether this clarity is real or just another passing feeling. Doubt tells you that you have felt inspired before and still ended up tired. It tries to convince you that hope is risky, that expectation leads to disappointment. But doubt is not wisdom. It is a memory of pain wearing the mask of caution. It does not define you. It only shows where you have been hurt. There is fear too. Fear of changing and fear of staying the same, tangled together. Fear asks what you might lose if you let go of familiar patterns, even painful ones. It whispers that the known discomfort is safer than the unknown peace. Fear is not a sign that you are weak. It is a sign that you are nearing something meaningful. Fear rises when the soul senses movement. There is hesitation, the subtle habit of waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect understanding, the perfect version of yourself. You tell yourself you will step forward when you are less tired, less complicated, more certain. But hesitation can become a hiding place. It promises safety while quietly draining your momentum. You do not need to be complete to begin. Beginning is what allows completeness to grow. There is confusion, often born from too many voices speaking at once. Expectations from others, comparisons you never intended to make, advice that meant well but did not fit the shape of your life. Confusion does not mean you lack direction. It means you have been listening outward more than inward. Your clarity hath been drowned out, not destroyed. There are external influences that learned how to pull at your attention. Endless noise, urgency that demands immediate reaction, narratives that tell you your worth is measured by productivity or approval. These forces are persistent, but they are not sovereign over you. They can only lead if you surrender your awareness to them. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to choose what you let shape you. Hear this carefully now. None of these barriers are your identity. You are not your doubt. You are not your fear. You are not your hesitation or your confusion. These are conditions you have carried, not truths about who you are. They formed around you for reasons that once made sense. Thank them for their service, and then loosen their hold. You may also carry a quieter barrier, one that feels like humility but is actually self-erasure. A belief that you should not want too much, should not hope too boldly, should not take up too much space. This belief has kept you small enough to be acceptable, but too small to be fully alive. You were never meant to disappear in order to belong. I am not asking you to fight these barriers. Fighting gives them importance they do not deserve. I am asking you to see them, to name them without judgment, to recognize that they are passing through you, not rooted in you. When seen clearly, they soften. When met with awareness, they loosen their grip. You do not need to remove every obstacle before you move forward. Movement itself reveals which barriers were only shadows. Light does not argue with darkness. It simply arrives, and darkness retreats. So if you feel resistance stirring, do not interpret it as a sign to stop. Interpret it as evidence that you are close. Close to alignment. Close to honesty. Close to a life guided more by peace than by defense. Stay with me here. Breathe. Let what is not you fall away naturally. What remains will be lighter, truer, and ready to step through the door that is already open. My beloved, beyond the barriers you have named, beyond the threshold you are sensing, there is a promise waiting to be understood. Not a burden, not a reward for good behavior. A promise of alignment, of being restored to a rhythm that no longer works against you. This promise has always existed, but it becomes visible only when you are willing to stop forcing your way forward. The promise is peace, but not the fragile kind that depends on everything going well. It is a steady peace that lives underneath uncertainty. A peace that does not disappear when plans change or answers take time. You have touched this peace in brief moments before, perhaps when you were fully present without trying to be impressive, or when you felt held by something you could not explain. That was not coincidence. That was recognition. The promise is healing, but not the erasure of your story. Healing does not mean forgetting what shaped you. It means no longer being controlled by it. It means the memories that once tightened your chest lose their authority. It means the old wounds stop dictating your reactions. You remain yourself, but you are no longer bound to yesterday's pain. The promise is clarity, not in the sense of having every answer, but in knowing which questions matter. Clarity brings simplicity. It quiets the endless inner debate and replaces it with a gentle knowing of what is aligned and what is not. You begin to trust your inner compass again, not because it never wavers, but because you learn how to return to it when it does. The promise is restoration, a returning of what was drained from you slowly over time. Your capacity for wonder, your ability to rest without guilt, your willingness to hope without bracing for disappointment. Restoration does not rush. It rebuilds carefully, honoring the pace your heart can sustain. You are not being remade into someone else. You are being returned to yourself. There is also forward movement in this promise, but it is not frantic. It does not demand that you hurry or prove your worth. It unfolds naturally when resistance softens. You will find yourself choosing differently without forcing it, speaking more honestly without rehearsing, letting go of what no longer fits without dramatic declarations. Growth will feel less like effort and more like alignment. Understand this clearly now. This promise is relational, not transactional. It is not something you earn by striving harder or believing better. It is something you enter by staying present, by allowing connection instead of control. The promise responds to openness, not perfection. You may have been taught to associate promises with disappointment, to assume that what sounds hopeful will eventually ask too much or deliver too little. But this promise does not exhaust you. It strengthens you quietly. It does not inflate expectations. It deepens trust. I am not promising you a life without difficulty. I am promising you a life where difficulty does not own you, where challenges do not erase your sense of grounding, where you are able to move through complexity without losing yourself. This is the difference. The promise also includes companionship. You are not meant to navigate clarity alone, not meant to carry awareness without support. I am with you in this unfolding, not as a distant overseer, but as a steady presence. When you feel unsure, you will not be abandoned to figure it out alone. When you stumble, you will not be disqualified. Let this promise settle gently into you. Do not rush to define it or test it. Simply allow yourself to believe that peace is not naive, healing is not unrealistic, and restoration is not reserved for others. This promise meets you where you are, exactly as you are, and it grows as you stay. You do not need to grasp it. It will hold you. My precious one, there comes a moment when moving forward no longer depends on effort, but on release. This is that moment. Not dramatic, not forced, simply honest. Surrender, as I speak of it now, is not giving up your agency or your voice. It is laying down what has been quietly draining you so you can finally receive what restores you. You have been holding more than you realize. Old guilt that resurfaces without warning. Regret that rewrites the past again and again, as if replay might somehow change the ending. The responsibility that was never truly yours, but that you carried out of love or loyalty. Anxiety that kept you alert, convinced that vigilance was the same as care. These burdens became familiar, and familiarity made them feel necessary. But they are not. I am inviting you into a sacred exchange, one that honors what you have endured without requiring you to keep carrying it. You do not need to justify your exhaustion. You do not need to prove that it is heavy enough to deserve release. If it weighs on your heart, it is worthy of being set down. Begin gently. You do not have to name everything at once. Even the willingness to loosen your grip is enough. Surrender often starts as a whisper. I don't want to hold this anymore. That whisper is heard, and it is met. As you release guilt, you receive compassion. Not indulgence, but understanding, that softens self-condemnation. You begin to see your past choices through the lens of context instead of cruelty. You recognize that you were doing the best you could with what you knew and what you hate. Compassion makes room for learning without punishment. As you release anxiety, you receive steadiness. A grounded presence that does not rush you toward worst-case scenarios. Steadiness teaches your nervous system that it does not need to be on constant alert to be safe. You start to trust the pauses between thoughts. You notice that silence is not empty, but supportive. As you release the need to control outcomes, you receive trust. Not blind trust, but relational trust. Trust that you are not alone in the unfolding. That you do not have to micromanage every detail of your future to be cared for. Trust allows you to rest without fear that everything will collapse if you stop pushing. There is also an exchange happening beneath awareness. As you release self-judgment, you receive clarity. Judgment clouds perception. It turns every misstep into a verdict. When judgment loosens, you see more clearly what aligns and what does not. You make adjustments without shame. You move forward without dragging the past behind you. This exchange is sacred because it honors your consent. Nothing is taken from you. Everything is offered. You choose what you are ready to release, and you receive in proportion to that openness. Even partial surrender brings real relief. Even imperfect release creates space. You may fear that letting go will make you passive or unmotivated. But what you are releasing is not your drive. It is the strain beneath it. What remains is a quieter strength, one that does not depend on fear to function. A strength that moves from clarity instead of urgency. Stay with this exchange for a moment. Feel what it would be like to carry less into tomorrow than you carried into yesterday. Imagine waking without the immediate weight of proving, fixing, or anticipating. This is not fantasy. It is the natural result of surrender practiced gently and consistently. I am not asking you to empty yourself. I am inviting you to be filled differently, with peace that does not demand explanation, with presence that does not need defense, with assurance that you are held even when your hands are open. Let this be enough for now. You do not need to complete the exchange in one moment. Sacred things unfold at the pace of trust. Each time you choose to release, something true and sustaining will meet you there. And you will find, slowly and surely, that you are lighter, not because you lost something essential, but because you finally let yourself receive. My beloved, what you are opening to is not meant to remain only in still moments. It is meant to walk with you into ordinary hours, into conversations, decisions, routines. Alignment is not abstract. It is lived gently, one choice at a time, in ways that respect your humanity instead of demanding perfection. Begin with how you greet your days, not with urgency, but with awareness. Even a single conscious breath before you rise can shift the tone of everything that follows. Let that breath be a reminder that you do not need to rush to be worthy. You are already held. Carry that knowing into your movements. Move a little slower than your fear urges you to. Notice how often clarity arrives when you stop pushing for it. Steward your time with kindness. Not everything that asks for your attention deserves it. You have learned to say yes out of obligation, to fill your schedule to avoid discomfort, to confuse busyness with purpose. Alignment invites you to pause before agreeing. To ask quietly, does this nourish or deplete me? This is not selfishness. It is wisdom learning how to protect what matters. Let peace become your internal compass. When a decision pulls you toward calm clarity, even if it feels unfamiliar, pay attention. When something creates constant tightness and justification, notice that too. Peace does not mean the absence of challenge. It means the absence of inner contradiction. When your actions match your values, there is a softness inside, even when the path is demanding. Be attentive to the way you speak to yourself. Alignment is reinforced by language. Replace harsh inner commentary with curiosity. Instead of asking why you failed, ask what you learned. Instead of labeling yourself as inconsistent, notice where you are still growing. Your inner voice shakes your nervous system more than you realize. Let it become a place of refuge rather than trial. Consider the relationships you nurture. Some connections invite you to breathe more fully. Others require you to shrink or perform. Alignment does not require you to sever everything that feels heavy, but it does invite honesty. You are allowed to set boundaries without explanations. You are allowed to choose depth over familiarity. As you honor your inner truth, your outer world will slowly reorganize around it. Your energy is sacred. Notice where it leaks through comparison, overthinking, with a need for approval. These habits learn to keep you safe, but they are no longer necessary in the same way. When you feel yourself reaching outward for validation, gently return inward. Place a hand over your heart. Remember that you are already known, already seen. Build small rituals of return into your life. Moments where you check in instead of checking out. A walk without distraction. A pause before responding. A few minutes of silence before sleep. These practices are not tasks to complete. They are doorways back to yourself. Consistency matters more than intensity. Gentle repetition reshapes your inner landscape. You may stumble. Old patterns may resurface when you are tired or overwhelmed. This does not mean you are misaligned. It means you are human. Alignment is not a straight line. It is a relationship you keep returning to. Each return strengthens trust. Each return teaches you that you are not lost when you wander. Let your days become places of listening rather than proving. Let your choices emerge from presence rather than pressure. You do not need to announce this alignment to anyone. Its evidence will be felt in the way you respond instead of react, in the way you rest without guilt, in the way your yes becomes clearer and your no becomes kinder. Walk this out gently, my child. You are not being rushed toward some distant finish. You are being invited into coherence, where who you are inside and how you live outside begin to speak the same language. This is practical. This is real. And it is already unfolding, one quiet, faithful step at a time. My beloved, everything had been leading to this simple, sacred place. Not a demand, not a dramatic turning. A choice that lives quietly within you, waiting to be acknowledged. The choice is not whether you are worthy. That has never been in question. The choice is whether you will trust what you have felt stirring, or return to the familiar shelter of postponement. Choice is powerful because it honors your freedom. I do not move you without your consent. I stand before you with an open door, not a command. You decide whether to step toward alignment or to remain where you are a little longer. Both are allowed, but only one nourishes what you are becoming. Responding does not require certainty. It requires sincerity. It can be as simple as a soft inner yes, a willingness to live awake instead of automatic, a decision to stop abandoning yourself in small, habitual ways. When you choose presence, even imperfectly, something deep within you settles. You begin to feel anchored, not because everything is clear, but because you are no longer divided against yourself. Let your response take shape through words, not as spells or promises, but as alignment spoken into being. Words shape attention. It shapes experience. When you speak truth gently, your inner world listens. You may say, quietly or aloud, that you choose to trust the clarity that has found you, that you are willing to release what no longer serves your becoming, that you are open to peace that does not need to be earned. These are not declarations of arrival. They are declarations of direction. You may say that you choose to move at a human pace without punishing yourself for needing rest, that you choose to honor your sensitivity as wisdom rather than weakness, that you choose to listen inward before reacting outward. Each declaration reorients you, like a compass needle settling toward true north. Speak also when fear rises, not to banish it, but to ground yourself. You may say that fear is present, but it does not lead. Uncertainty exists, but it does not define the outcome. That you are allowed to take the next step without seeing the whole path. These words remind your nervous system that you are safe enough to continue. You can declare that you are no longer waiting to be rescued from your life. You are participating in it consciously. That you choose relationship over control, honesty over performance, peace over pressure. Let these words be spoken not once, but often, especially when old patterns try to reclaim you. This choice will echo forward, not as perfection, but as consistency. Each time you choose awareness, the path becomes clearer. Each time you return after wandering, trust deepens. You are not proving anything. You are practicing alignment. I want you to hear this clearly now. Choosing does not lock you into rigidity. It opens you into responsiveness. You remain flexible, curious, alive. The choice is renewed each day, sometimes each hour, and each renewal strengthens your sense of agency without hardening your heart. You are not choosing alone. I am with you in this commitment, steady and unshaken. When your declarations feel strong, I am present. When they feel fragile, I am still present. You do not lose connection because of inconsistency. Connection deepens through return. So choose now, gently, not with urgency but with intention. Let your choice be an act of self-respect. Let your declarations be reminders rather than demands. You are stepping into a way of living that listens before it leaps, that trusts before it tightens, that breathes before it reacts. This is the choice that saves you, not from the world, but from losing yourself within it. And every time you speak it again, even in a whisper, you will feel the ground beneath you grow steadier, the light ahead a little clearer, and your own voice a little more true. My beloved, we arrive now at a quiet resting place, not an ending that closes, but a seal that holds what has been opened. Let the words soften and settle. Let them sink beneath effort, beneath memory, into that calm place where truth recognizes itself. You do not need to carry everything forward consciously. What matters has already found its way into you. As you return to your life, nothing needs to look different immediately. Transformation does not announce itself. It reveals itself over time, in how you breathe, how you choose, how you return to yourself when the world pulls hard. Trust that what hath been stirred will continue to unfold with gentleness. You are not responsible for forcing growth. Growth responds naturally to care. There will be moments when you forget what you felt here. That is human. When that happens, do not judge yourself. Simply pause. Remember that stillness is always available to you. Remember that you are allowed to come back, again and again, without penalty or shame. Return is part of the way. I leave you now not with instructions, but with presence, with assurance that you are not alone in the living of what you have heard. When uncertainty visits, you are held. When courage feels small, it is enough. When you rest, nothing is lost. When you move forward, you are accompanied. Let this be sealed gently in you under this name, carried like a quiet ember through your days. I hope this reaches you. Only those I'll save will see this, not as a warning but as a remembrance. That you were reached, that you saw, that you chose awareness over numbness, presence over drifting. Go softly now, precious one. The door remains open. The light remains steady, and you remain deeply known, deeply kept, and deeply loved as you continue, step by step, into the life that is unfolding before you.